The Cardassian prisoner's blood dripped onto the cold stone floor as the Imperial interrogator pressed the electroshock baton against his skin. The Empire had subjugated hundreds of worlds, dismissing species like the Cardassians as weak and primitive. But the interrogator's sneer faded as the prisoner lifted his head and met his gaze with unwavering defiance. "You're too late," the Cardassian rebel gasped. "We're not alone anymore." On the Cardassian homeworld, a desperate resistance fought against impossible odds. Imperial troops had slaughtered Murlock's family when he was a child. Now he led the rebels, fueled by dreams of freedom. But the Empire's technology overpowered them at every turn. Murlock had one final hope: a secret transmission to a mythical species known as humans. Imperial propaganda painted humans as fractured and feeble, yet whispers hinted at their hidden strength. Vincent, battle-hardened commander of a human outpost, read Murlock's plea with keen interest. Decades spent fighting hostile aliens had honed humanity's skills in the shadows. Helping the rebels would be risky, but Vincent saw an opportunity to expose the Empire's vulnerability. He arrived on the Cardassian homeworld to smoke-filled skies and battered cities. But in Murlock's eyes, he recognized the same fire that had driven humanity to the stars. Vincent shook the rebels' hand, sealing an alliance that would provide Cardassian fighters the weapons and training to stand against the Empire's might. On his flagship, Regional Governor Zelor seethed as reports arrived of human ships near Cardassian space. He would make these upstart species pay for their insolence. The Imperial fleet surged towards the Cardassian system, ready to crush the Resistance and their human allies without mercy. Two species, once separated by light years, now stood united against a common foe. Together they would learn if determination and ingenuity could triumph over an empire built on cruelty and oppression. The battle for the future had begun. The acrid stench of smoke and charred flesh hung heavy over the Cardassian capital. Vincent strode through the rubble-strewn streets, his boots crunching on shattered glass and twisted metal. He glanced at Murlock, noting the grim set of the rebel leader's jaw. The Cardassian's eyes were haunted, but a fierce persistence burned within. "We need to keep moving," Vincent said, scanning the ruins for any sign of Imperial activity. "Zelor will be back, and he'll bring the full force of the Empire with him." Murlock nodded, his hand tightening on his weapon, a sleek, human-made assault rifle. "My people will fight to the last breath. We won't let this chance for freedom slip away." As they picked their way through the devastation, Vincent's mind raced with plans and contingencies. The surprise attack on the Imperial Command Center had bought them some time, but at a terrible price. The scattered remnants of the rebel forces needed to regroup and rearm, and quickly. A sudden movement caught Vincent's eye, and he tensed, raising his weapon. But it was only a group of Cardassian civilians, their faces streaked with soot and blood emerging from the rubble. They stared at Vincent and Murlock with a mix of fear and desperate hope. "We need to get them to safety," Murlock said, lowering his rifle. "There's a network of underground shelters beneath the city. It's not much, but it's better than being out in the open." Vincent nodded, already mentally adjusting their plans. "Sergeant Ramirez, take a team and escort these civilians to the shelters. Make sure they have food, water, and medical supplies." Ramirez, her arm in a makeshift sling, snapped a salute. "Yes, sir. We'll keep them safe." As Ramirez led the civilians away, Vincent turned to Murlock. "We need to contact my superiors. Let them know what's happening here. If we're going to have any chance against the Empire, we'll need more than just weapons and supplies." Murlock's expression hardened. "What we need is ships, soldiers. The Empire has a fleet that could darken the skies of 100 worlds." "I know," Vincent said grimly, "but we have something the Empire doesn't, the will to fight for our freedom at any expense." He keyed his communicator, hailing the distant human outpost. "This is Commander Vincent, reporting from the Cardassian homeworld. The situation is critical. We've engaged the Empire directly and inflicted significant damage, but we need immediate reinforcements and support." There was a crackle of static, then a voice filtered through, distorted by distance and encryption. "Understood, Commander. We're mobilizing every available asset. Help is on the way." Vincent closed his eyes for a moment, feeling a flicker of hope amid the chaos and destruction. The road ahead would be long and bloody, but for the first time in generations, the Cardassian people had a chance to break free from the yoke of Imperial oppression. He turned to Murloc, meeting the rebel leader's determined eyes. "We've got work to do. Let's get your people ready for the fight of their lives." Together they strode into the heart of the shattered city, ready to forge a new future from the ashes of the old. The ground shook as another Imperial bombardment struck the outskirts of the city. Vincent steadied himself against a crumbling wall, dust cascading from the ceiling. He turned to Murloc, who was hunched over a holographic display of the planet's surface. "They're getting closer," Murloc said, his voice tight. "Our outer defenses won't hold much longer." Vincent nodded grimly. "We expected this. Admiral Varys isn't known for his subtlety." As if on cue, a deafening roar filled the air as a squadron of Imperial fighters screamed overhead. The building trembled, and for a moment, Vincent feared the roof would collapse. But the human-designed force field held, its shimmering surface absorbing the brunt of the attack. "Commander!" A young Cardassian rebel burst into the room, panting. "Imperial dropships have been spotted. They're deploying ground forces in Sector 7. Vincent's lips pursed. "It's time. Murloc, get your best fighters to the front lines. I'll coordinate with my team for hit-and-run attacks on their supply lines." As Murloc rushed to rally his troops, Vincent activated his comlink. "Ramirez, status report on the civilian evacuation." "Nearly complete, sir," came the sergeant's strained voice. "We've got the last group heading into the tunnels now, but we're taking heavy fire." "Hold your position," Vincent ordered. "Reinforcements are on the way." He cut the connection and turned to see Murloc suiting up in battle-worn Cardassian armor. The rebel leader's eyes blazed with persistence as he checked his human-made rifle. "This is it, Vincent," Murloc said. "Everything we've fought for comes down to this moment." Vincent clasped Murloc's shoulder. "We'll give them hell!" They emerged into chaos. The sky was choked with smoke and debris, punctuated by the flash of energy weapons and the scream of missiles. In the distance, Imperial walkers advanced through the rubble-strewn streets, their heavy cannons reducing buildings to ash. Vincent's team moved swiftly through the shadows, using their advanced cloaking technology to strike at Imperial supply convoys and command posts. They left a trail of burning vehicles and confused enemies in their wake. Murloc led the charge against the Imperial ground forces, his rebels using their knowledge of the city's layout to outmaneuver the invaders. The human weapons and shields gave them an edge, but the Empire's numbers were overwhelming. As night fell, Vincent found himself pinned down with a group of rebels in what had once been a grand government building. Imperial troops were closing in from all sides. "Commander," his comm crackled to life, "this is Dr. Naira. I need to speak with you immediately." Vincent frowned. "This isn't the best time, Doctor. We're a little busy staying alive." "Trust me," Naira insisted. "What I have to say could change everything." Intrigued despite the dire situation, Vincent signaled for his team to cover him as he retreated to a more secure position. "All right, Dr. Naira," he said, crouching behind a fallen pillar. "What's so important?" "I've been working on something," Naira's voice was tight with excitement and fear. "A weapon that could turn the tide against the Empire. But I can't complete it here. I need to defect." Vincent's mind raced with possibilities. "Where are you?" "Imperial Research Facility in Sector 4, heavily guarded." Vincent weighed the risks. A trap? Possibly. But if Naira was telling the truth? "Hold tight, Doctor," he said. "We're coming to get you." As he ended the call, an explosion rocked the building. Imperial troops were breaching the lower levels. Vincent readied his weapon, knowing that the next few hours would determine the fate of the Cardassian resistance, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The air crackled with energy as Vincent's finger hovered over the detonator. Dr. Naira's prototype EMP weapon hummed ominously, its intricate circuitry pulsing with awe-inspiring power. But before he could activate it, a blinding flash erupted from the far side of the lab. "No!" Naira screamed, lunging forward as flames engulfed her life's work. Vincent grabbed her arm, pulling her back as secondary explosions rocked the facility. "We have to go, now!" They stumbled out of the lab, coughing as acrid smoke filled the corridors. Murloc met them at the entrance, his face streaked with soot and blood. "Imperial forces breached the outer perimeter. We're overrun." A deafening roar shook the building as Imperial dropships descended, disgorging waves of heavily armed troops. Vincent keyed his comm. "All units, fall back to evacuation point Charlie. This is not a drill." The next hours passed in a blur of chaos and carnage. Vincent and Murloc led their battered forces through the burning city, dodging Imperial patrols and exchanging fire with enemy squads. Civilians streamed alongside them, clutching whatever meager possessions they could carry. "Watch out!" Murloc shouted, shoving Vincent aside as an Imperial walker's massive foot crashed down where he'd been standing. The Cardassian rebel leader unleashed a barrage from his rifle, the energy bolt sizzling harmlessly against the walker's armored hull. "Ramirez," Vincent called out, "we need heavy weapons." The sergeant appeared, her face grim as she hefted a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. "On it, sir." Ramirez took aim, the launcher's targeting system locking onto the walker's vulnerable joints. She fired, the rocket streaking towards its target in a trail of smoke. The explosion rocked the street, shrapnel raining down as the walker toppled. But more Imperial forces were closing in. Vincent saw Ramirez fall, her body riddled with blaster fire, as she held off a squad of stormtroopers. "Go!" she gasped, tossing him a data chip. "Get them to safety!" Gritting his teeth, Vincent pocketed the chip and signaled the retreat. They fled into the outskirts, the city's towering spires giving way to windswept dunes. The ragged column of rebels and refugees trudged through the shifting sands, the relentless sun beating down on them. Naira stumbled, her face pale beneath the grime. Vincent steadied her, noticing the makeshift satchel clutched to her chest. "The data," she wheezed. "I couldn't leave it behind." He nodded, understanding the weight of what she carried. The plans for the EMP device, their last hope against the Empire's technological superiority. As night fell, they reached the coordinates of an old Cardassian bunker. Murloc input a complex series of codes, and hidden doors ground open, revealing a cavernous interior untouched for decades. "We'll be safe here," Murloc said, though his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. "For now." Vincent organized teams to assess the facility's systems, while Murloc tended to the shell-shocked civilians. Naira immediately set up a makeshift lab, poring over the salvaged data. But their respite was short-lived. Imperial scout ships appeared on the horizon, zeroing in on their location. Vincent gathered a strike team, leading them out into a howling sandstorm to ambush the scouts. The storm's fury masked their approach. Sand scoured their armor as they crept towards the Imperial landing site. Vincent raised his hand, signaling the attack. Energy weapons flashed in the swirling darkness, the element of surprise allowing them to overwhelm the scouts. As the last Imperial fell, Vincent accessed their comms array. His blood ran cold as he decrypted the data. The Empire was mobilizing its entire fleet, preparing to crush all resistance in the sector. Back at the bunker, he shared the grim news with Murloc and Naira. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll find us eventually, and we don't have the firepower to hold them off." Naira looked up from her work, her eyes bright with a desperate idea. "What if we bring the fight to them?" she asked. "I can rebuild the EMP device. We take it to their capital ship, disable their fleet from within." Murloc shook his head. "It's suicide." "It's our only chance," Vincent countered. He turned to the Cardassian rebel. "I need your best fighters. We'll use the captured scout ships to infiltrate their defenses." Murloc hesitated, then nodded. "Kayla," he called out. A fierce-looking Cardassian woman stepped forward, her scarred face set in iron will. As they prepared for the desperate mission, Vincent looked out over the huddled masses of refugees. He knew the odds were stacked against them, but the alternative was unthinkable. They would strike at the heart of the Empire, or die trying. Vincent's finger hovered over the detonator, the EMP device thrumming with latent power. He locked eyes with Naira, her face a mask of dedication. With a nod, he pressed the button. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the device, washing over the Imperial capital ship in waves of crackling blue lightning. Systems failed in cascading chain reactions, plunging the massive vessel into darkness. "It worked!" Naira exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Vincent allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction before keying his comm. "All units, execute Phase 2. Hit them while they're blind." The stolen Imperial shuttles they'd used for infiltration now became instruments of destruction. Pre-planted explosives detonated throughout the ship's vital systems, crippling its ability to fight back. As they fought their way to the extraction point, Vincent's comm crackled to life. Murlock's voice came through, strained but triumphant. "We've done it, my friend. The Imperial fleet is in chaos." The journey back to their desert stronghold was tense, but as they touched down on Cardassian soil, a cautious sense of victory permeated the air. Cheers erupted from the assembled rebels, human and Cardassian alike. But Vincent knew better than to celebrate prematurely. He gathered his top lieutenants and Murlock in the command center, their faces illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. "The Empire won't take this lying down," Vincent said, his voice grim. "We've bought ourselves some time, but we need to prepare for their counterattack." Murlock nodded, his scarred face set in commitment. "Agreed. We'll fortify our position here and—" An urgent beep from a nearby console cut him off. A young Cardassian rebel rushed to investigate, her eyes widening as she scanned the incoming data. "Commander," she called out, "we've intercepted Imperial communications. They're mobilizing reinforcements from shipyards on Telos Orfu's moon." Vincent's mind raced, formulating a plan. If we can strike those shipyards, we might be able to keep the initiative. He turned to Murlock, who was already nodding in agreement. "It's risky," the Cardassian leader said, "but it might be our best chance." Over the next hours, they cobbled together a strike team. Vincent watched as human Spec Ops troopers, led by Sergeant Torres, integrated with Cardassian fighters under Murlock's protege, Sorad. Despite the lingering tension between the two groups, a shared sense of purpose united them. As the team prepared to embark, Vincent pulled Torres aside. The grizzled sergeant's face was a roadmap of past battles, his eyes hard but intelligent. "This mission is critical," Vincent said. "If you succeed, we might just have a chance of winning this war." Torres nodded, checking his weapon one last time. "We won't let you down, sir." The strike team departed under the cover of darkness, using stolen Imperial codes to slip past patrols. Vincent watched their progress on the tactical displays, his hands clenched into fists as the blips representing their ships drew closer to the shipyards. Hours passed in tense silence. Then, suddenly, the command center erupted into a flurry of activity as reports began flooding in. The strike team had succeeded in infiltrating the shipyards, unleashing chaos with hijacked construction rigs and strategically placed explosives. But their triumph was short-lived. A new alert blared, and Vincent's blood ran cold as he read the incoming transmission. "Imperial ambush," he muttered, his mind racing to formulate a response. How did they know? As he watched the unfolding battle through fragmentary reports and grainy video feeds, a familiar face appeared on the main screen. Imperial operative Shira, her features twisted with hatred and the scars of their last encounter. "You thought you'd defeated me," she snarled, her voice dripping with venom. "But I'm not so easily killed, Vincent, and now I'll have my revenge." The screen went dark, leaving Vincent staring at his own reflection. He knew that the coming hours would test the Alliance to its limits, and that the cost of victory, if they achieved it at all, would be measured in blood.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.